My name is Lisa, and what I'm about to share might sound like a movie plot, but it happened in my own family. My own parents, Mark and Elizabeth, stole $5 million from my dying godmother. Not figuratively, not through lies of omission. Stole. And I made them pay for it in a way so devastating, so precise, that it didn't just destroy their reputation. It rewrote an entire industry's rulebook. This isn't just about stolen money. It's about betrayal wearing a smile, about how greed can slip quietly into a parent's eyes, and about finding the courage to fight back when doing nothing would be easier. If you've ever felt helpless watching someone you love be neglected or mistreated, you'll understand every heartbeat of this story. Because this is justice dressed as revenge, and every second of it was earned. Patricia wasn't just my godmother. She was the vibrant center of my life. She was the person who taught me that the world was bigger than my zip code. My parents played it safe. Same neighborhood potlucks, same polite routines, same cautious smiles. Patricia was the opposite of every gray day they loved. She collected color. Her life was a passport filled with stamps and stories, silks from India, postcards from Greece, a hand-carved jewelry box from Morocco. Stepping into her apartment felt like stepping into sunlight after living underground too long. When the Alzheimer's diagnosis came, it was like the air changed pressure. Patricia, always firm and fearless, moved swiftly. She called my parents and her lawyer into her living room, and in one simple gesture that would haunt us all, handed them a check for $5 million. Mark claimed he teared up when he told me later. At the time, I thought it was grief. Now I know it was greed. Patricia's voice, soft but commanding, had carried across that room. "Use this to make Lisa's godmother's days soft," she'd said. "Promise you'll protect my dignity. Comfort me. Let me live the remainder of my life like the woman I've always been." They promised. They cried. They swore. And for exactly 3 weeks, they kept their word. Elizabeth arranged fresh flowers by Patricia's bedside. Mark delivered gourmet soups, and they even talked in hushed tones around her, as if reverence could be faked. The nurse, Stacy, read aloud from Patricia's travel journals, her voice trembling over old stories of train rides and ocean storms. "She'll have everything she needs," Elizabeth whispered during one of those staged visits. And for a moment, I believed her, but sometimes your gut knows the truth before your brain can catch up. Their kindness had a strange mechanical rhythm, like a show on repeat. Their affection was practiced, not felt. I caught Mark checking his watch mid-story. Elizabeth's smile bent at the wrong moments. Stacy kept sneaking glances at her phone. And then came the call. "Lisa, honey?" Elizabeth's voice came through the line. Sugar-coated, careful. "We found Patricia a wonderful new place. Maple View Senior Living. So elegant. She'll be safer, happier there." Maple View sounded luxurious on paper. Rolling lawns, cheerful seniors, and words like premium care environment scattered across the brochure. But brochures lie. The moment I stepped through Maple View's glass doors, the scent hit me like a kick. Bleach. Disinfectant. And under it, something worse. Loneliness thick enough to taste. The elegant dream vanished like smoke. The halls were crowded. 30 residents in space meant for 20. Nurses moved like ghosts on fumes. And there by a sealed window sat Patricia. My luminous, globe-trotting godmother reduced to a fragile outline, her eyes dulled, her skin gray under the sickly lights. Her travel journals gone. Her photos gone. Even her jewelry, gifts from decades of adventures, had disappeared. "Where's her stuff?" I asked the day supervisor, Cindy. She shrugged. "Personal things go missing sometimes. Happens a lot." I stepped into Patricia's assigned room, a sterile cube lit by buzzing fluorescent bulbs. Bare walls, plastic mattress. No rugs, no silk, no trace of her bold, curious life. Just a hospital gown, gaping at the back, and a woman who no longer recognized her own world. That night at home, grief turned to shock. I'd wandered into Mark's home office searching for tissues, and found the proof of everything. On his desk lay a desk calendar, neat and understated, circled in red ink. Guardianship petition, full control. The words hit like a punch. They weren't just mismanaging her money. They were about to legally own her. Every decision, every asset, Her entire identity signed over. Rage gave me purpose. I started visiting Patricia every night after work, smuggling in her old travel journals like contraband. I'd read her entries while the night staff shuffled by, too underpaid and overworked to care. Each page brought her back for a few flickering seconds. "Tangier," she whispered once, eyes flickering with faint light. The wind tried to steal my scarf. Those tiny moments of clarity, so brief, so fierce, became my oxygen. Outside those walls, my parents were living the reward for their cruelty. They bought a Tesla. They built a marble kitchen island that could have been carved from Mount Self-Importance. They hosted dinner parties where they bragged about how exhausting elder care was. When I confronted them, the mask didn't even slip. "The facility costs a fortune," Mark said, eyes glued to the floor. "We're being responsible." "Patricia would want us comfortable too," Elizabeth added solemnly, as though she were the hero in her own delusion. I wanted to scream. Instead, I started collecting ammunition. Night after night, under buzzing white lights, I documented everything. I took photos, audio notes, and whispered details into my phone like a war reporter on enemy ground. Cindy, one of the few decent nurses there, noticed. Slowly, she started helping. "I've been doing this for 20 years, she murmured one night, while slipping Patricia a cup of real tea instead of the diluted mush they called dinner. "This isn't the worst home I've seen, but it's close." It turned out every indignity had a $sign attached. Patricia's care plan switched fresh fruit for canned applesauce. Her medication was swapped for cheap generics that made her more confused. Even the windows were painted shut, because as Cindy muttered darkly, "Sometimes the residents get ideas." 2 aides. 30 people. Criminal neglect packaged as cost-efficient care. Mark and Elizabeth called it sustainable. I called it torture with paperwork, but every attempt to move Patricia met a wall of legal jargon and polite indifference. My parents had outfoxed the system. They were provisional guardians, paperwork pending final approval. Unless I could prove abuse, no one could touch them. The clock ticked, and Patricia faded. Then I met Andrew Orr, an attorney with tired eyes and a spine made of steel. He specialized in elder abuse cases, and unlike others, he didn't interrupt when I spoke. He listened. After I finished, he said only one thing. "There's always a trail, Lisa. Money leaves footprints. Let's find them." Days blurred into weeks as we combed through data. I followed his instructions like a detective in training. Calls, statements, bank transfers. Then the miracle came from Patricia herself, or rather, from the past version of her that still believed in foresight. Hidden in a safety deposit box neither Mark nor Elizabeth knew existed, we found Patricia's real will. Not just paperwork. A video message. The footage opened with Patricia sitting in her sunlit apartment, surrounded by her Moroccan rugs and stacks of travel journals. Her voice carried both warmth and warning. "If you're watching this," she began, "it means I've lost myself, and someone has made choices for me. But I'm making a choice now while I still can." My heart pounded as her recorded voice filled the lawyer's office. "I leave my apartment buildings, my shops, and my little seaside plot to Lisa on one condition. She must use these resources to build a public standard for elder care, something that ensures dignity for people like me. If she won't or can't do this, everything goes to charity. Nothing goes to anyone who warehouse human beings like forgotten inventory." She paused, and for a moment it felt like she was looking directly at me. "I'm throwing you a rope, darling. Grab it." The codicil was legally bulletproof. More importantly, it gave me the weapon I needed to destroy my parents' carefully constructed lie. Andrew and I spent weeks building our case. We tracked every penny of Patricia's money, the Tesla payments, the kitchen renovation, the country club membership, the designer clothes. We documented the facility's violations: understaffing, food substitutions, medication changes, the painted windows, the missing personal items. But I wanted more than just legal victory. I wanted to create something that would ensure this never happened to anyone else. Working 18-hour days at my kitchen table, I developed something I called the Maple Standard, a comprehensive public scorecard that anyone could use to evaluate elder care facilities. It wasn't just about regulations. It was about humanity. The Maple Standard included staffing ratios, minimum 1.66 during the day, until 10 at night. Food quality, fresh fruit weekly. Hydration options outside of meals. Environment, windows that open. Accessible temperature controls. Personal items allowed and protected. Care response. Call bells answered within 5 minutes. Individualized pain management. Gentle end-of-life options. Humanity factors. Staff who spoke residents' languages. Real music. Flexible visiting hours. The court hearing was everything I'd dreamed of, and more devastating than I'd imagined. Mark and Elizabeth arrived in their expensive clothes. Confident and condescending. They'd prepared presentations about reasonable care costs and sustainable resource management. They talked about Patricia like she was a budget line item, not a human being who trusted them with everything. Then we played the video, watching my parents' faces as Patricia's recorded voice filled the courtroom was like watching a building collapse in slow motion. Mark went pale. Elizabeth's hand started shaking. Their lawyer kept shuffling papers, clearly realizing his clients had lied to him about everything. "Your Honor," Andrew said, his voice steady and strong. "The defendants have systematically looted the plaintiff's trust fund while consigning her to substandard care. They violated not just the terms of her gift, but the basic dignity she deserves as a human being." We presented our evidence methodically. Bank records showing Patricia's money flowing to personal luxuries. Photos of her sterile room versus her former apartment. Testimony from Cindy about the facility's conditions. Medical records showing her decline under their care. The judge, an older woman named Patricia Richardson, listened to everything before asking the question that ended my parents' scheme. "Define soft care for me, each of you." Mark stumbled through an answer about clean sheets and regular meals. Elizabeth talked about professional supervision and medical oversight. Empty words from empty people. Then Judge Richardson turned to me. "Windows that open," I said, my voice clear and strong. "A hand is already reaching for you before you fall. Music that belongs to you, not just whatever's cheapest. Food that tastes like food. The right to keep the things that make you who you are." The ruling was swift and brutal. Guardianship petition denied. Patricia's assets frozen pending investigation, and a court-appointed fiduciary to oversee her actual care. My parents were ordered to pay restitution and faced potential criminal charges for elder abuse. But the real revenge was just beginning. Within weeks of launching the Maple Standard publicly, everything changed. Families armed with stopwatches started timing call bell responses. Hospital discharge planners added Maple scorecards to their packets. Facilities received anonymous report cards highlighting their failures and suggesting improvements. The worst facility in our area threatened to sue for defamation. A week later, they quietly installed new windows that actually opened and started providing freshwater jugs, a luxury facility that had been coasting on reputation. Hired a part-time pianist named Christopher, who played in the hallways, bringing music back into lives that had been reduced to existence. Patricia, now in a facility that actually cared about her dignity, smiled when she heard Christopher's piano. "You did a thing," she whispered to me during one of our visits. "Maple," I replied, squeezing her hand. "Trees, remember?" My parents tried one final legal challenge, claiming the Maple Standard was unregulated and caused harm to business operations. The judge allowed Maple to continue with transparent methods and the right of repli for facilities. More importantly, care directors with tired faces but bright eyes started contacting me. "We've been begging for minimum standards for years. Now we can prove what we need." Patricia died on a honey-colored morning with her window open, my hand in hers, and Christopher's piano drifting down the hallway. Between breaths, she squeezed my hand twice, our old signal for "I love you," and stepped off like the traveler she'd always been, someone who knew all the turns by heart. The probate was simple. I placed all of Patricia's properties into a trust that funds Maple Standard improvements and upgrades care directly. We publish better this week every Thursday. Sometimes it's something small like a fixed door latch or a piano tuning, but each improvement represents dignity restored. Hospitals now require Maple Compact certification for preferred placement partnerships. City contracts follow facilities with green leaf ratings. The standard has spread to 12 states and counting. People ask if Maple made me rich. It didn't, but it made care visible, and visibility is the enemy of neglect. My parents kept their marble island and their Tesla. They tell their friends I'm passionate about elder care, like it's a hobby instead of a mission born from their betrayal. Their names aren't on anything that plays music or opens windows or respects the dignity of aging. On Sundays, I sit with Patricia's blue leather journal and record 5 soft things from the week. Cindy taught a resident to say plum in Polish. Average call bell response time dropped to 341. Fresh oranges appeared in 3 facilities. Night staffing ratios improved at Mapleview. Cindy got the raise she deserved after 20 years of caring. On the anniversary of Patricia's death, I stood on her little Atlantic plot and read aloud from her final journal entry. Not everything you hold tight deserves holding, but some things do. I check the Maple Standard app on my phone and see green leaves spreading like spring across a map of care facilities. The tide writes the same sentence on the shore over and over until even the sand remembers what Patricia taught me. Turn money into a blanket, not a whip. Keep windows open. Pour fresh water. Make soft choices that are also strong ones. That's how you turn betrayal into justice and grief into a force that changes everything. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe for more incredible revenge stories and tell me in the comments what would you have done in Lisa's situation. Remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't just getting even. It's making the world better for everyone who comes.